for the Planning Hearing Officer hearing for October 25th, 2023. My name is Vista Izati, and I will be conducting the hearing as hearing officer. The Planning Hearing Officer meeting is broadcast live on Glendale TV, viewable on Spectrum Cable Channel 6 and AT&T Uverse Channel 99. Meetings are also streamed live in high definition on the city's webpage, glendaleca.gov/live, on youtube.com/myglendale, and on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire devices using a free app called ScreenWeave and choosing Glendale TV from the menu. Meetings are also archived on the city's website for viewing anytime at glendaleca.gov/agendas. For public comments and questions during the meeting, please call 818-937-8100. City staff will be submitting the questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person. We have two cases involving discretionary permit applications on the agenda for today. The hearing will proceed as follows. I will read the description of the application request. I will read the reports received from other city departments and other letters or communications from interested parties. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be called on to present, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or in opposition to the application and interested parties will be called on to give comments, again clearly stating both name and address, within a 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by preceding speakers within a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will then be closed and the item will be taken under submission. Findings. If the evidence presented in the application and at the hearing meets the required findings set forth in the municipal code, then the project can either be approved or approved with conditions. If the required findings of fact are not evident, then the request will be denied. Decision. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Records of decisions for all projects will be posted online on the Planning Division website. Under the appeals provision of Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal must file using the city's online permit portal. For any additional information regarding the appeal process and submittal, please contact your case planner. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners, occupants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. I would like to also inform everyone that the official proceedings of the Planning Hearing Officer's hearing are being televised live and may be viewed online on the city's website. The first item on the agenda is variance case number PVAR-001380-2023. The applicant is Janelle Williams, and the project address is 3611 2nd Avenue. The applicant is requesting a variance to demolish an existing detached garage and construct a new 271 square foot detached garage located within the required street front setback, with reductions to the required interior dimensions of a 2-car garage, required garage door width, and required driveway length on a 4,000 square foot parcel zoned R1 FAR District 2 and developed with a 760 square foot single family residence. Comments from other departments. I don't believe there were any comments from any of the other departments, really.
Mrs. Zadi, standard comments were provided by various departments regarding the project. The only condition recommended was by fire prevention, which where the garage was to be sprinklered.
Okay, thank you. And then I don't have any letters or communications from anyone, so I'm assuming there were none received?
No communications received.
Great. Thank you. Then I will turn it over to you for the presentation.
Thank you once again, Mrs. Zadi and members of the public. Good morning. The item is located at 3611 2nd Avenue. The project is generally located in the Crescenta Highlands neighborhood, north of the 210 freeway and south of the San Gabriel Mountains. The property is approximately 4,000 square feet in size. It's located mid-block between Lauderdale and Dunsmore Avenue. The terrain of the property has a subtle upward slope from the street within northerly direction. And at present, the site is developed with a modest single-family dwelling, approximately 760 square feet, and an existing 266 square foot detached garage that's approximately 1 foot setback from the street front property line, as you can see on this lower left-hand corner of the screen. Along the street and on the property is an existing stone retaining wall. Which was constructed at the original time of the development of the neighborhood, which was circa 1924. The North Glendale Community Plan identifies these stone structures as examples of the pre-1950s constructions where the native stone was primarily used as material, as an inexpensive material lying about the area. The existing conditions of the garage is dilapidated, which is the framing of the garage is showing signs of failure, which you can see on the lower right-hand corner. You may notice the framing of the garage is starting to lean, and the stone finished material is separating itself from the building wall. As a result, the applicant's desire is to demolish the existing 266 square foot detached garage and then construct in the same place a new 271 square foot detached garage in the same location and with the general same configurations. Once again, the requested variances are two. One, locate the garage with approximately 1 foot from the street front. Two, construct the garage with the reduced interior dimensions at 13 feet by 17 feet interior. Also, reduce garage door width approximately 13 feet. And last, reduce the required driveway length, which will be approximately 1 foot from the street front. And prior to staff's analysis and some housekeeping here, this is a brief overview of the required findings for a variance which the review authority must find. In summary, A, a strict application of the code would result in practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship. B, exceptional conditions applicable must be found of the property. C, granting of such variance will not be detrimental to the property or such zone. And D, the last one, granting such variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance. And on the following slides, my analysis of the project will cover these findings and staff's opinion. Pardon me. On to the analysis of the project. Staff believes there are practical difficulties and unnecessary hardships involved with the strict application of the code. In terms, which I will present 3 scenarios that were considered for other potential locations on the property, and I will review them separately. By the first scenario, the garage, if it were to be set back approximately 25 feet from the street, and on the eastern interior yard, because the existing dwelling is set back approximately 13 feet from the eastern interior property line, there's a limited space to accommodate a new 20 by 20 dimension interior garage, which portions of the building will need to be demolished and altered. Because the garage is attached in this scenario, a 4-foot interior setback will be required, which further sets the building into the building and creates unnecessary hardship in this first scenario. Under scenario 2, the staff had evaluated, at the rear, there's an approximately 31 by 50 foot available area, which the detached code-compliant garage could be constructed at the northeast corner with a straight driveway leading into the required parking. Because the required spaces are required to be configured with clear and unobstructed access, the driveway must be widened to accommodate clear access to both parking spaces, which the garage would require a 25-foot turn radius, which is demonstrated here on this slide here. And as you can see in this scenario, there are space restrictions also with this hypothetical situation, which portions of the rear of the house would have to be demolished, resulting in unnecessary hardship and practical difficulties with this scenario as well. And last, the third scenario, just like scenario number 2, if the garage were to be constructed at the rear, but at the northwest portions of the lot. Vehicular access would be into the garage would be provided an extended driveway, which will essentially span the length of the eastern side of the lot with a 90-degree left-hand turn across the lot and into the garage. Practical difficulties associated with this scenario: there's a large amount of landscaping that will be lost. The property is currently covered with 49% landscaping. Under this scenario, landscape areas 2, 4, and 5 will be substantially removed, which the total landscaping will fall below 40%, which is required by code, and would be reduced to a total lot coverage or landscaping coverage about approximately 24%. As a result, under the scenario, it would result in another difficulty, and as well would require a separate variance for landscaping for the entire lot. Other considerations were provided by staff, which the garage were to be located within the street front setback. However, with a compliant interior garage and code-compliant 16-foot wide door. Because the existing stone walls at the front yard are identified as pre-1950s construction, where native stone was used as a primary material for the neighborhood in its early development, these stone structures should be retained or protected when feasible by the North Glendale Community Plan. A code-compliant garage with a footprint would essentially displace portions of the stone wall, resulting in demolition and reconfiguration of these walls, and would be an exceptional circumstance of this property. Overall, approval of the variance will not be contrary to the objectives of the ordinance because the proposed development will be substantially in the same location as the existing garage in terms of setbacks, driveway length, interior garage dimension, and garage door dimensions. As you may recall, the lot has a subtle upslope topography. The requested variance would minimize landform alterations, avoiding unnecessary modifications to the existing house as well as the existing stone retaining walls. And last, to maintain character of the neighborhood, the river rock of the existing garage will be salvaged during the building's demolition and reapplied to the elevations of the new garage to return its character exhibited currently today onto the new garage. As a result, staff believes the requested variances allow for reasonable development that's compatible with the neighborhood surrounding, and reconstructing the garage in the same location and same configuration will minimize landform alterations and avoids unnecessary modifications to the house and the stone retaining walls, which the North Glendale Community Plan encourages for its preservation or alterations. And this concludes my presentations, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. No questions at this time. I'll call on the applicant, Ms. Janelle Williams. You have 15 minutes.
Thank you, Vista. Appreciate the time this morning. First, I'd like to thank Dennis, Joe, for your diligence and your thorough evaluation of our request. The time you spent to get us here is much appreciated. I'll stand on your thorough staff report. The property owner, Nancy Evans, is here as well. When she purchased the property in 2006, she was looking for a small house with lots of character in the Crescenta Valley. This home, with its matching garage and local stone, suited her desires perfectly. She will tell you that she's enjoyed living in the home throughout the years. The house is still in great shape, but the garage sadly has deteriorated over time, mostly due to inadequate structural design of the 1920s that just couldn't stand the test of time. Still, the design and the location are consistent with the owner's desires. She doesn't want to add any square footage or disturb the layout of her property that she loves. The small 4,000 square foot lot has 2 levels from the street to the house. The garage is situated, as you can see, at street level, and is also the retaining structure for the dirt at the upper level of the lot where the house is situated. The property was originally developed in 1924. The existing house and garage are original. 2 of the garage walls are buried into the dirt as retaining structures. The proposed new garage would be set in the same location as the existing. While no changes are proposed to the house itself, sadly, there's no remedy for the garage but to demolish and rebuild. A new garage will afford enough room to park an automobile, but it cannot meet the required 20 by 20 interior dimension due to these lot constraints that Dennis talked about. The new garage would utilize and reuse, to the extent possible, the local stone that's found on the existing garage and the front retaining wall and the house. The cladding on the garage would be wood and stone to replicate that found on the existing garage and house. The concrete stairs will be rebuilt in their current location, all of which will be structurally engineered to current code standards, which are much more stringent now than they were in 1924. As it is sited now, the rear wall of the existing garage is mostly in the dirt, with just the roof and a small part of the back wall projecting above grade. As you can see in the photos, the rear eave of the garage roof is almost touching the concrete landing at the front of the house. There really is nowhere else for us to go. To push the garage further back would only serve to push more of the garage into the dirt, rather than be aesthetically pleasing to the neighborhood and consistent with its original design. It would create a practical difficulty and unnecessary hardship inconsistent with the purpose and intent of the ordinances. A full-size two-car garage would require demolition of a portion of the small house to accommodate the required minimum interior size. There's no room to move the garage to the 25-foot setback or to provide a 20-foot long driveway. The property owner strongly wishes to be true to the original design, keeping the house and garage sited consistent with the original intended design, massed, sized, and scaled for a small lot. Any alternative scenario would also require grading, resulting in potentially hundreds of cubic yards of export earth from the property while still requiring variances. This proposal would not require any export of earth. As the photographs show as well, the existing garage has not fared well in its 99-year history. The wood vertical beam to the left of the garage door has shifted out of square. The stone wall to the right of the door has moved so far that the interior of the garage can be easily seen through the widened space between the garage door and the rock wall that frames the door, and the concrete walls inside have cracked and shifted with time. Needless to say, the situation is not safe, and the garage is currently not being accessed. Maintaining the existing setback and driveway length will preserve the aesthetic of the existing streetscape, while most important, keeping grading to an absolute minimum. The elevation from street level up to the house is about 6 feet. There'll be no changes in the footprint of the garage, but we are raising the ridge about 2 foot 5 inches and adding a small access door on the rear side of the garage. This height increase will allow for storage loft. The height increase is within allowable limits. We propose a modest overall garage height of 13 foot 9 inches, where 15 feet in height are allowed. We're also replacing the existing concrete stair and landings on the west side of the garage and the landing at the entry to the house. The request will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property, since the size, the setback, and the driveway length exist as legal non-conforming structure. As stated in the staff report, it's also consistent with neighboring properties. The intent of the setback regulation to provide adequate side yard flow of light and air will continue to be preserved with the proposed replacement garage, in that this improvement to the property won't diminish the existing aesthetics, won't diminish light or airflow, or add any living floor area. At the location of the existing setback, the nearest structure is the neighboring garage to the east, which has a setback of approximately 24 inches. Parking is prohibited on the north side of the street at this location. So a new garage would afford the owner covered parking and ease the parking restraints on the south side of the street by removing one vehicle from the street, which would benefit the Second Avenue neighbors who park on the south side of the street. The current existing garage is legal nonconforming, built in 1924 with the house. The facade is in balance with the house, with the matching bungalow style, clapboard siding, and the original local stone at either side of the garage door and across the front of the property. The clipped gable roof mirrors the house, and the new garage would feature and preserve all of these important details. The proposed setback encroachment is already existing and has been in line with the objectives of the regulations over its 99-year history. Driveway length, setback, and interior size can't be accommodated in any design given the existing topography and the lot constraints. The code does allow flexibility in cases where accommodation is warranted. In this instant, the intent of the code will be preserved and the resulting aesthetic is preferred over strict adherence to the setback standard for all of the stated reasons. Pushing the garage back and widening would require demolition of a portion of the house that is already small at just 730 square feet. It would restrict light and air movement and violate the intent of the ordinance. The solution we offer is the most practical and preserving the symmetry of the overall lot development while offering the owner the utility of parking and needed access to storage. Placing the garage in the rear yard would not be practical, in part due to the huge loss of landscaping, resulting in another variance request, but I think more importantly, the loss of permeable surface, which collects water and percolates rainwater down through to the water table. Loss of permeable surface would result in precious water being shuttled down to the ocean and the owner unable to enjoy her backyard space. The new garage will not intensify the single-family use or negatively impact the neighborhood or the adjacent properties. It will, however, afford the property owner the ability to actually park a vehicle safely in the garage. Second Avenue at this location is quite narrow, only 30 feet wide, including the entire public right-of-way, walks, and gutter. Parking is restricted to just the south side of the street, so the prospect of moving one car from parking in the street would be a benefit to the neighborhood. And as a side note, had this been an application for an accessory dwelling unit, there would be no provision for required parking at all. Yet an ADU would cause added congestion to the narrow street and be a source of more vehicles needing to park on the narrow public right-of-way. We only propose a replacement of a dilapidated structure, like for like, as originally designed, with a modest upgrade of height for storage while maintaining the original building permit and minimizing or negating all grading. So I'd like to also, again, thank Dennis for his great presentation and all of the hard work that he did on this case. I'm here to answer any questions you may have, as well as the property owner, Nancy Evans.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. So
Okay.
thank you for your presentation.
Thank
I
you.
don't have any other speaker cards. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this item?
Nancy Evans is here to answer any questions I can't answer.
Okay.
Otherwise, I think she's going to stand on the staff report and the presentation.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then, do we have any callers?
Oh, we have no callers, Mrs. Zadi.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. So this case is being taken under submission at this time for a decision to be made at a later date. Thank you. And with that, we're going to move on to the last item on the agenda, variance case number PVAR-001449-2023. The applicant is Nara Gazarian with Red Arc LA, and the project address is 1541 Ardeven Avenue. The applicant is requesting a standards variance to allow the construction of a new 100 square foot lot zoned R1, FAR District 1, described as Lot 6, tract number 1576. The proposed second-story addition further exceeds the permitted maximum FAR and is directly above the existing building envelope of the first floor.
Thank you, Ms. Azadi. Good morning, members of the public. As Ms. Azadi mentioned, the applicant is requesting the approval of a new 100-square-foot addition to an existing 3,231-square-foot single-family dwelling located at 1541 Art Even Avenue. The proposal would further exceed the maximum floor area ratio permitted on the site. Construction of the proposed addition requires the approval of a variance request to further exceed the maximum size house permitted on the site. And as shown in the calculation breakdown on the slide, the maximum size permitted by code is 3,089 square feet. The existing house is 3,231 square feet, which is 142 square feet over maximum size. 1 second. Hello? Thank you. Sorry about that. So again, as shown in this calculation breakdown, there is the 3,089 shown on the bottom, and it's shown how we get to that number. And then the second number shows the existing floor area ratio of 3,231 square feet, and that's 142 square feet over FAR. And with the proposed house size of 3,031 square feet, that would exceed it by 242 square feet over FAR. The project is categorically exempt from CEQA under Section 15301 for existing facilities and 15331 for historical resource restoration/rehabilitation because the project is a minor addition to an existing building. The house is located on a 10,890 square foot lot with street frontage on Art Even Avenue. The site is developed with a 3,231 square foot two-story house built in 1930, and various additions have been permitted on the site since its construction, the last of which was finalized in 1980. The site plan shows the location of the proposed addition at the rear interior, separated by the driveway, and it is proposed on the second floor over the existing massing on the first floor. The first floor plans show that no new additions are proposed, but significant remodels are proposed as part of this project. The second floor plans showed the proposed location of the 100 square foot addition along with significant remodels. And you can see the addition of 2 bathrooms where the addition is proposed, along with an expansion of the existing primary bathroom, closet, and new laundry room. The side elevation shows the area of the addition and the proposed roof. And the rear elevation does the same. You can see for both that the setback will remain, but additional massing is presented at the rear and at the side. And for context, this photo shows the front of the house on the left, and the photo on the right shows where the addition is proposed at the back of the house. And staff does not believe the findings can be met for this variance and recommends denial of the application. There are no practical difficulties or hardships associated with the request. The applicant argues that the existing layout does not meet the current needs of those living in the house. The maintenance of the existing house size does not constitute as a hardship. The residence has existed for more than 40 years with its current layout. And the proposed addition results in a total of 4 bathrooms on the second floor, along with several other significant changes to the interior layout. However, it would be possible to keep the existing floor area while redesigning the second floor with additional bathrooms and minimally impact the existing bedroom sizes. The second findings, finding B, there are no exceptional circumstances or conditions that apply to the property that don't apply to other properties in the neighborhood. The findings provided by the applicant referred to design modifications and deficiency in usability of the second floor. There are no apparent deficiencies related to the property itself. And while the subject of FAR does relate to, or does not relate to property limitations directly, the neighborhood conditions presented as examples are consistent with the property's FAR. When doing research of the example properties, it was revealed that those exceeding current code requirements related to FAR were permitted around the same time as the subject property's addition. So it is similar to those presented as examples. The third finding, finding C, granting of the variance will not be materially detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to the property or improvements in such zone and neighborhood. The setback of the first floor is being maintained with the proposed addition following that setback, and the addition is modest and located towards the rear of the house. Last finding, finding D, granting of the variance would not be in keeping with the objectives of the ordinance. Approval of this variance would further intensify an existing nonconformity, going against the intent of the zoning code to eliminate nonconformities. The FAR requirements to allow proper lighting and ventilation are further being impacted by the second floor addition. And again, staff is recommending to deny the variance to construct the addition that will further exceed the available FAR. And we did receive one public comment, more like a question. It was just a question regarding the application, but none else other than that one question presented to you, Ms. Azadi. And thus concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Just one question. The last edition that was done before the 90s, correct?
Correct. The last edition was 1980. That was the last permitted edition.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the applicant up to present. Mr. Narek Azarian, you'll have 15 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Narek Azarian from Red Arc LA, and I'm the architectural designer for this project. I'd like to begin with thanking Sadie for her presentation. It was a good introduction to our project. However, there's a few things that I would like to clarify and expand on further. As mentioned during Sadie's presentation, the scope of work is to add 2 bathrooms and a laundry room. The owner has 2 younger kids, and not having a laundry room in the house is far from ideal. They have a daughter and a son who currently share a bathroom, so the goal is to give them their own bathroom as they grow older. This is achieved by proposing a 100 square foot addition that only increases the FAR to 30.5%. I want to start by explaining why we're requesting this variance, and there are mainly 2 reasons for it. The first one is that this property is historic, and with this comes its own challenges and limitations. This could also be seen as the exceptional circumstance that does not apply generally to other properties throughout the city. The most significant limitation that comes with this is the existing window sizes and locations, which cannot be changed. By reconfiguring the second floor layout, the room sizes and the overall quality of spaces drastically decrease. The proposed bathrooms either do not have windows or the bedrooms lose windows. Currently, the bedrooms barely meet the light and ventilation requirements as is, which means that any reduction in window counts for any of the bedrooms will result in the bedrooms not meeting the building code requirements. Now, the second challenge is the structural design of this house. I don't know if it's possible to pull up any of the sheets. If so, actually just an elevation showing the roof. So looking at the elevation, you see the shape and the slopes of the roof. It has a lot of drastic changes. And what this does is it creates a lot of load-bearing walls toward the center of the house. And by redesigning the layout on the second floor, we would need to start redesigning the overall structure of the house and start implementing a lot of beams and upgrading and increasing the sizing of the footings. And due to this, by redesigning the overall structure of the house, we are creating unnecessary hardship due to the cost increase. Our structural engineer estimated that the construction cost associated with making these changes could cost over $100,000 just because of adding the beams, increasing the footings, and redistributing the load throughout the house. To summarize these 2 points, redesigning the second floor layout will result in inferior spaces that do not meet natural air and light requirements with a significant construction cost increase, making this project no longer feasible. and we believe that this is not the general purpose nor the intent of the building code. Some work is being done on the second floor, but all of this is strategically designed to avoid or minimize any work done to the existing structure and the load-bearing walls. The work you're seeing done is mainly done to interior non-load-bearing walls. And in Sadie's recommendation, she stated the intent of the zoning code is to eliminate non-conforming aspects of the properties. This implies that our proposed project goes against the intent of the zoning code. However, I would argue that it does not. Starting in 2016, we started seeing a new generation of neighborhoods. The urban fabric drastically changed with the addition of ADUs. On this property, we will be allowed to propose an 800 square foot attached ADU in the backyard, and that would follow in the intent of the code, yet this 100 square foot addition does not. In fact, we could propose a junior ADU within the existing footprint of the house up to, let's say, 500 square feet, and exempt that square footage from the FAR calculation. This would reduce our existing house size from 3,231 down to 2,731 square feet. With this, we will be, with the allowable FAR being 3,089 square feet, we would regain 358 square feet that we can use to propose the same exact addition and then some, while meeting the intent of the zoning code. I think it is important to consider the entire zoning code and the building code and not just one section. If the same addition is allowed when taking a different path, then surely this cannot be against the intent of the code. This makes it a matter of permit sequencing rather than meeting the intent of the code. Sadie also stated the location and scale of the addition would not impact the surrounding neighborhood due to its proposed location situated towards the rear of the house over the existing massing and the modest size of 100 square feet. We do believe that our proposed addition is a seamless extension of the existing architecture and will not stand out in any way, yet achieve so much in terms of quality of spaces and construction cost. We also conducted an FAR study, which can be seen on one of our plans, but okay, that's fine. But basically, diagonally across from this property, there's another property with the same square footage. It's actually 9 square foot, a 9 square foot smaller lot, yet the house on there is 3,771 square feet. That means that even with our added 100 square foot addition, the house across the street is still 440 square foot larger than our house. 2 properties north, we have a house that is on a slightly bigger lot, but with a significantly larger house. That house is 4,794 square feet. This house exceeds the allowable FAR by 1,621 square feet. I just want to point these out so you have a better understanding of what currently exists on this street. And in this diagram, you see all the ones marked in red are houses that exceed the allowable FAR. And with this, I'd like to conclude my presentation, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So I do have a couple questions, and I just want to clarify a few items. So in your comments, you indicated that if you were to build an ADU, you would be exempt from FAR calculations. That's actually not correct. It is still calculated towards your FAR. However, you are allowed under state code up to a certain square footage to exceed FAR. So it's still counted towards your floor area. It's not separate. It's still part of it. You can exceed it for the ADU, but you wouldn't be able to then take that square footage and do your addition. That's not how the code works, and that's not the intent of the regulations either. The intent is to allow you to add and exceed development standards, but you don't get a credit for that to go towards an addition. That's not how it works.
So if I were to propose an 800 square foot ADU attached to the house in the backyard, that would not be allowed with the current
You can propose
condition?
the 800 square foot ADU because the state forces our hand on certain things, including FAR up to 800 square feet. You can exceed the maximum allowable. Were you to go over 800 square feet, the subject property zoning standards for FAR would still apply. The 800 square foot is the maximum for that. But it doesn't get you a credit towards your addition. That's our standard practice. So
We've
I just
done
want to
numerous
clarify
projects
that.
in Glendale. Sorry, I don't mean to disagree with you, but we do have a project that we recently permitted in the last 6 months where exactly that happened, where part of the existing square footage of the house was converted into a junior ADU, which gave us more square footage to use.
I'm not
to
sure
add-
why that happened. That's a different project. I can't comment on that. I'm just telling you how we implement the rules. That's how we implement it, that's how I've been implementing it, and that's how other planners should be implementing it. And I just want to clarify that for the record, that doing the ADU does not give you extra FAR for the rest of your house. And then just looking at the plans, the square footage calculations provided for existing and proposed, are they taken to the exterior walls, or are they based off interior dimensions? 'Cause-
Exterior walls.
Exterior walls, okay. And then there's, in the records from the assessor's office, there's something about a 130 square foot basement, but that's not really shown on the plans anywhere. Is that still in existence? Is that gone away? What is it used for?
It's basically an access to the crawl space underneath the house. So there is a part, the stairs going down, and you do have about a 4-foot retaining wall. And above that, it's a 2-foot opening to access the crawl space. And it is open to the crawl space underneath, so it's not enclosed interior square footage in any way.
And then from where in the house would you access it?
Underneath the stair.
Okay. And then, it's not on the plans, I don't see it in any, or I don't see any section drawings, but what would you estimate the floor to ceiling height of the basement to be?
I'll say about 6. Yeah.
Okay.
But even then, the square footage of the house is also used from what the assessor has for this property, the 3,231 square feet.
And that
So
includes the basement?
It should include the basement,
Okay,
yes.
that's my question, because it's not being shown on the drawings.
yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it should be.
Okay.
Okay, and then, now, I do understand your comments about the building code requirements and their intent, but there's also the intent of the zoning code, and that's the challenge here, is when there's a non-conforming situation, generally, it's not something we want to expand upon. So with that in mind, if we don't want to make a non-conforming situation more non-conforming, in your opinion, how would it be meeting the intent of the zoning code to increase the FAR beyond what's already there? You're taking a non-conforming situation and you're making it more non-conforming, which is not the intent of the zoning code. ADU rules aside, because ADU rules are something the state requires us to allow under certain circumstances. So that's kind of where I'm struggling, is if the intent is to not exacerbate nonconformities, how is this different?
The intent of the zoning code is to limit the massing of what we're seeing along the streets and to prevent mansionizing any of the properties. Yet, like I mentioned in the presentation, dating back 2016, we saw drastic change in the neighborhoods and a drastic change in the urban fabric. So to claim that this 100 square foot addition that is not visible from the street in any way is creating this brand new big mass, it's just unreasonable, especially considering all these new projects that are being permitted throughout the city.
Okay. And then, the other properties in the area that you mentioned, are those all recent additions, or were they done before the 90s?
I'm
In
not
your-
sure
in
when the
your
additions were
research?
made, but I think Sadie said that they were done along the same time as the addition that was done to this house.
Okay, yeah, okay.
I don't know the exact year on all of them, but I'll take her word for it.
I looked into each property and looked at the building records for each one. And the most recent, I believe, was around 1990. So they were all pretty consistent. If not, it was like the 1930s. I mean, this is a historic district, so most of them are original houses that were that preceded modern code standards.
May I ask which house it was that was the newest one?
I don't have that list with me right now, unfortunately. That was a separate list spreadsheet that I have for myself. I don't have it with me readily available. So I'm not sure at this point.
The reason I ask is just FAR floor area ratio standards became codified in the 90s. That's why I'm asking. So a lot of these developments were built before those rules existed, but were these individuals to come in for a similar situation, we would be applying the same standards we are to this project. That's why I'm asking, when were those additions done? Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions. I'm going to go on to the next speaker. For the public comment portion, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. The first card is Ara Malakian, and you're the property owner. Would you like to speak?
Sorry, part of your introduction, you said that I would have 5 minutes and that anyone else, neighbor, would have 3 minutes?
No, the applicant is given 15 minutes, members of the public are given 3 minutes, and then the applicant is given 5 minutes to rebut.
Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you for your time this morning. Thanks, Sadie, for her work that she's done on this project. I just want to let you know that it took us about 3 years to find this house in the perfect location for a house with a Tudor style that we love and we plan on living on until we pass it on to our kids. However, there's issues in the house, main issue being not having a laundry room in the house. It causes a lot of problems in trying to just get laundry done. And so allowing this square footage upstairs that's on top of an existing first floor, I don't see how it would make any difference to anyone passing by the street or living next door to me or behind me that would cause a problem. As my architect said, if I were to do an ADU and the state would mandate you to allow this additional square footage if I went that direction, it's still adding mass, which goes against the intent of the regulations that you guys are trying to enforce. So it's just a technicality of me going either this direction and that direction. So let's talk about direction. I got my directions from Eric Kraus. I walked into the city, spoke to Sadie. She said, forget it. I said, why? She said, forget it. I said, okay. I said, call Mr. Kraus. Give me his card. Follow her direction. Went to Mr. Kraus. I explained everything. He called out the Historic Society. They came to my house. They gave me the nod. Said, move forward. I went and talked to Kraus again. Said, it's 100 square feet. You okay with it? He said, look, it's not a big ask. Yeah, but we're going over FAR, according to Sadie. Says, if I were you, I'd do it. I followed direction of the top guy in her department. Now I'm standing here arguing over 100 square feet that does not cause any problems to anybody. And like I said, if I had gone the other direction and tried to lie about what I was going to do, I wouldn't even have a public hearing. So I'm asking you guys to look at this as just like anyone else that is adding an ADU, adding mass to their property, okay?
You have 30 seconds.
I'm not doing anything any different than what anyone else is doing, except I'm just not going the false route. I'm being honest, as I've been with everybody so far, okay? Also, this is a neighborhood we want to live in. We don't want to move. We're keeping the character of the house. Nothing is changing other than making a really bad part of the house look much better. If you look at the house from the backyard, that part that they added looks disgusting. To fix that and make it new and conform with the rest of the property only enhances the neighborhood. There's no detriment to anybody. So I ask you guys respectfully, please grant this variance and let me do what I want to do so I can move back home.
One question, so the assessor records show there's a laundry room in the garage. Is that not there anymore, or?
The problem is the pipe that goes from there all the way out to the street, okay, is not a regular size drain pipe. So the water gets backed up all the time, so we can't use it. So a lot of times we have to go to the laundromat to do our laundry,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
And so, and plus you got to run out there in the rain and run back in the rain with dirty and clean clothes. It's just not practical. You know, you live in a nice home, you want to at least have a laundry room in your house.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next card I have is Patrick Matavosian. You're a neighbor?
Yes, how are you?
Hi, you'll have 3 minutes. Just state
Yeah,
your name.
it'll be very short.
Sure.
It's more of the arguments for a floor area. I thought it was view obstruction or something like that. I live right next door, and when I saw that sign outside, I thought that, I was eager to know what they're doing. And I kept on looking, and I just couldn't see what they could do. So then when I found out that it's the corner part there, they're trying to do 100 square feet, it's literally, even if you
But basically, what I'm trying to say is, as a neighbor, I have no issue with this at all. Every time I go by the driveway, I look at it. Even if you imagine the tree's not there, you look at it, you really can't see that backside. That side is basically falls right next to my family room. So I went from my family room looking at it, and actually, to what Ara was saying, that area looks, the way it's built right now as we speak, it looks very incomplete. There's a roof, and then it just looks very incomplete, and then you got the second floor. That part where they want to do, that corner part where they want to do the proposal of the bathroom is 100 square feet, is basically it. I think that looking at all the houses, I'm an AC contractor, so I go to many houses. So when you look at that house and you see that house having a corner, having a bathroom, and you don't see that roof on the first floor, it makes it more of a complete house. And I mean, there's really nothing wrong as far as obstruction or view goes. That's basically it.
Okay. Thank you. And just to clarify, you're the house to the north on the corner?
I'm the corner house,
Okay.
yeah, facing that proposed bathroom.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll invite the applicant up. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal, and I also have a couple more questions for you.
I really don't have much to add other than what I presented earlier, but I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So, in your comments, you talked about how were you to work with the existing footprint, because I noticed like on that second floor, there's a very large bedroom, which could potentially be, you know, remodeled to provide what you need. And the scope of work also includes creating a very large bathroom. But you mentioned structurally it's not feasible anymore. Do you have any of that documentation that we could look at, or alternative layouts, and maybe, you know, understanding like really what is the impact for the project? Were you to go that route?
We had a structural engineer come visit this site and look at everything, but
Okay.
we haven't began the structural calculations because we weren't sure if we would be allowed to proceed with this.
Well,
And in response to the large room you were mentioning, if you look at where it meets the hallway, if we were to propose a bathroom there, then you don't have access to the rest of the house. And also another issue with the second floor is that currently, if you look at the plans, there is no master bedroom. There's no room with a ensuite bathroom. There's no room with a walk-in closet. So we're using that square footage to create a master bedroom with
okay.
an ensuite bathroom.
You mentioned the structural engineer ran some numbers, and it wouldn't make sense money-wise to
Yes.
go forward. That's what I'm asking about, not necessarily your structural calculations for building and safety. I'm just trying to understand what are the alternative layouts and what are those impacts, and I don't see that documentation here. And that's kind of where I'm struggling. I mean, you're telling me this, but I don't have any documentation to support that. We would want to see, like, you know, what are the alternative interior layouts and what are those impacts going to be for us to really consider this, as
I
far
could
as.
provide that. It's not a
Yeah,
problem.
if you want to provide that to the case planner, that would be a big help, just because, you know, I want to understand really what the challenges are there, because looking at it on different projects I've reviewed, I don't see how you can't work with the interior layout. You may just have to sacrifice some square footage in a bedroom somewhere or do something else, but if your structural engineers looked at that, if I have that documentation, I can really evaluate it. I don't see that here. So it's difficult for me to really understand when you say this is going to be the impact. You know, I don't have anything to support that in front of me.
I could provide that. We
Okay,
did
if you
explore
want to
different
provide that
options.
to the case planner
Will
as
do.
soon as possible.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. That's all. I'm sorry, do we have any callers?
No callers.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. So this case is also being taken under submission. This hearing is now officially closed. Thank you for your participation. Thank you.